Have you ever walked into a room and noticed the one person who says nothing, yet somehow holds everyone's attention? Not because they speak the loudest, but because they don't need to. In a world that confuses noise with influence, true power moves differently. It waits, it observes, it strikes only when the moment is inevitable, and always without warning. This isn't about playing cruel games. It's about mastering the quiet tactics that most people overlook, the kind that win before the fight even starts. What you're about to discover isn't just strategy, it's the discipline of restraint, clarity, and decisive control. Stay with me, because understanding these principles might just change how you move through every room from now on. The essence of silent power. In a world where noise is mistaken for strength, silence remains the language of the truly powerful. The louder they shout, the more they reveal their fear. The quicker they threaten, the more they expose their insecurity. But the one who speaks little, who lets their presence command the room without raising a voice, moves with a power that cannot be borrowed or faked. This is the foundation of strategic mastery, not in loud declarations, but in deliberate stillness. Machiavelli understood this long before boardrooms and digital warfare existed. He knew that it wasn't brute force that shaped empires. It was the art of psychological concealment. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't flinch at insult or beg to be noticed. It moves in shadows, watches 10 steps ahead, while others stumble over the next one. The man who no longer needs to prove anything, proves everything. His silence isn't weakness. It's a provocation, a mirror that forces others to wrestle with their own imagination. And that's the trick, isn't it? You let them unravel themselves. You don't yell, you don't chase. You allow the enemy to project their own fears onto your calm. You give them nothing, no reaction, no emotional crack to slip through. Because in the absence of your energy, they must confront their own. That kind of restraint is not born overnight. It is forged. Forged through trials, failures, humiliation, and long hours of disciplined stillness. It is the power of not needing to respond, of carrying stillness like a hidden blade, of letting others wonder what you're thinking while you already know what they'll do next. That's the essence of Stoic control, not the absence of action, but the deliberate choice of when and how to act. The world rewards those who can resist the urge to show their hand. When you walk into a room and people turn to watch, not because you demand it, but because you've become a mystery, they respect you before you say a word. This isn't intimidation through volume. This is command through presence. So let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them wonder. You don't need to respond. You don't need to explain. You just keep building, silently, deliberately, and without permission. Because once you've mastered silence, you've mastered yourself. And when you've mastered yourself, there's nothing left for them to use against you. Master perception, own the moment. In every clash, be it in conversation, competition, or confrontation, the truth is not the currency that dictates the result. Perception is. The real battlefield doesn't start when voices are raised or tensions boil over. It starts the moment others begin to see you, because people don't respond to what is. They respond to what appears to be. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand, he wrote. Why? Because while few will ever know your intentions, everyone will witness your composure, your tone, your stillness, or your lack of it. This is why the one who masters appearance gains the advantage before the first move is even made. It's not about being right. It's not even about being strong. It's about looking composed, focused, and unshakable, especially when you're not. When others see calm in the storm, they question their own footing. That hesitation, that brief flicker of uncertainty, is your silent victory. A Stoic understands this well. Control over the self creates influence over others. Emotional chaos repels power. Inner stillness radiates it. A Machiavellian doesn't interrupt. They observe. They don't flinch when insulted. They wait. They let the other speak first, not out of politeness, but to collect ammunition. They don't need to fight louder. They win by letting others expose themselves, then quietly turning those words into weapons. That isn't cruelty. It's discipline. It's the art of shaping perception in a world ruled by it. You don't need to crush your opponent. You only need to ensure they look unstable while you do not. In a society addicted to optics, the one who appears calm is treated as wise. The one who remains silent is presumed to be calculating, and the one who shows restraint when everyone else unravels is elevated to mythic stature. This is not about deception for deception's sake. It is strategic restraint in a world that confuses noise with depth. You don't need to expose the truth. You only need to control how it's perceived. Let them rage, let them over-explain, let them perform. You remain the stillness that unnerves them, because ultimately, power doesn't go to the loudest or even the smartest. It goes to the one who can control the story being told. And the most powerful story isn't spoken. It's seen in your posture, your eyes, your calm, your refusal to be moved. In a world that thrives on spectacle, the one who doesn't perform becomes the most feared. And that's when you stop needing to fight. You simply become the presence no one dares to challenge. Shape the field, set the terms. A direct confrontation may feel courageous, but more often than not, it's a trap. A trigger for resistance, ego, and chaos. True power doesn't clash with another's nature. It works around it. It reshapes the field they move in until their actions, though seemingly autonomous, are guided by the very limits you've designed. This is the silent genius behind environmental manipulation. The Stoics taught us to control what is within our reach, and while people's minds may be untouchable, the conditions they operate in are not. So instead of forcing someone to change the space they must move through. Think of conflict like a game of chess. The goal isn't to destroy every piece, it's to control the board. You don't need to remove your opponent. You only need to adjust the timing, the terrain, the available options, until they begin to defeat themselves. A rescheduled meeting, a quiet change in access, the strategic removal of an ally, all these minor shifts ripple through your opponent's stability. And before they realize what's happened, they are no longer reacting with strength. They are reacting with confusion, with fatigue, with missteps that serve your plan. This is not deception for its own sake. It is influence through precision. Environmental manipulation doesn't aim to humiliate. It aims to exhaust, to reframe the scenario so completely that your adversary begins acting according to your rhythm, not theirs. It's how seasoned negotiators win without raising their voices. It's how the Stoic leader governs not with demands, but by designing conditions where the right choice becomes the only obvious choice. Instead of wrestling with someone's chaotic emotions or stubborn beliefs, you shift the frame that surrounds them. You alter the light, tilt the floor, and let their next move become inevitable. By the time they notice the change, the damage has been done, and it wasn't through brute force, but through the quiet rearrangement of reality itself. The battlefield, then, is not a place. It is a construct. One you shape with patience, foresight, and restraint. The person who controls the environment doesn't need to control people. They only need to control the options. Because when every road leads to an outcome you've already chosen, you win without ever drawing a weapon. And that, in the Stoic sense, is the highest form of dominance. Not domination over others, but mastery over the structure they must operate within. Success in this form is subtle. It's not measured by applause or recognition. It's measured by how little you had to force and how naturally things began to fall into place. The strength in being underestimated. In a world obsessed with projection, where strength must be visible and dominance must roar, the most dangerous move is often silence. To appear harmless is not a flaw. It is a weapon sharpened by wisdom. The Stoics taught us that the wise man does not announce his strength. He allows it to remain hidden, disciplined, controlled. Machiavelli understood the same truth in a different tongue. The predator who announces himself invites caution, but the one who limps, who apologizes, who plays the fool, he invites carelessness. And it is within carelessness that opportunity is born. To feign weakness is not to be weak. It is to master the rhythm of perception. It is to lull the room into comfort while you observe, calculate, and prepare. You are not surrendering. You are setting the stage. You are not being submissive. You are drawing out the enemy's arrogance, their need to assert, to dominate, to overextend. And once they believe you are beneath them, they will no longer guard what matters most. This is not cowardice, it is composure, the art of letting your opponent move first, not because you are afraid, but because you understand that a sword drawn too soon dulls in the wrong battle. True power is patient. It waits beneath the surface, cloaked in humility, until the exact moment when precision matters more than volume. The Stoics knew this well. He who conquers himself, who holds his fire, who plays the fool with purpose, often ends up controlling not just the conflict, but the story that follows it. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must be both lion and fox. The lion roars, the fox vanishes and returns with advantage. When you pretend to retreat, to agree, to bend, you are not giving up. You are redirecting the current. You are letting them believe they've won so that they never see the shift. And in that illusion lies your power, because arrogance blinds more effectively than rage, and the blind walk willingly into traps they would have avoided had they respected you. Let them mock you. Let them feel safe. Let them speak freely and expose themselves. Your silence is not weakness. It's timing. Your delay is not indecision. It's design. When the moment comes, strike not with fury, but with clarity. Strike not where they expect resistance, but where their guard is down. And when they realize what has happened, it will be too late to respond. To feign weakness is to shape the narrative in your favor. It's the highest form of strategic patience. And when done well, victory does not come from force. It comes from the quiet realization that the battle was won before it ever began. Finish it. The power of decisiveness. When confrontation becomes necessary, let it be final. Because half measures don't keep the peace, they prolong the war. A wounded opponent doesn't walk away. They crawl into the shadows, nursing their humiliation until it hardens into vengeance. Machiavelli warned us, if you strike but leave your adversary with dignity, support, or the illusion of strength, you've not ended the battle. You've delayed its next chapter. This is not a philosophy of cruelty. It is the architecture of peace through closure. The Stoics remind us that mercy without clarity is not virtue. It's negligence, and negligence has a price. In the arena of power, the most dangerous enemy is the one you allow to breathe. Pain becomes obsession. Obsession fuels revenge. You may think you're showing restraint, but what you're doing is creating a future problem with a better strategy. That's why true dominance, the kind that does not need to be repeated, demands finality. No lingering doubts, no shared territory, no overlapping circles. If you must confront, finish it with such clarity that there is no sequel to write. This doesn't always mean destruction in the literal sense. It means erasure, psychological closure. It means you remove their influence, cut their access, end their narrative. You don't leave behind open threads. They'll use them to pull you back in. In personal matters, this may look like silence, distance, and unapologetic departure. No farewells, no explanations. Just the kind of exit that leaves no door to knock on. In business or politics, it means outmaneuvering not only the rival, but their entire support system, isolating them until their relevance withers on its own. This isn't an act of cruelty, it's an act of discipline. The Stoics believed in controlling what you can, and when it comes to conflict, the one thing fully within your control is the ending. Let your final action speak louder than any threat. Make it swift, clean, emotionless. Don't gloat, don't broadcast, just vanish. Let the echo of your decisiveness do the rest. Let it remind others that testing you has a cost, and that cost is not negotiable, because the truly untouchable don't leave loose ends. They don't play games twice. They don't linger in battlefields they've already conquered. The moment you hesitate, they rebuild. The moment you show leniency, they strategize. And the moment you offer a second chance, they see your weakness. Decisiveness is not just a tactic, it's a shield. It's what keeps you from ever having to fight the same war twice. So finish it, not with malice, but with mastery. Not for ego, but for peace. Because when no one dares to continue the conflict, that's when you've won. Not just the battle, but your freedom from it. And that is the ultimate form of power. Not just victory, but irreversible, unquestionable closure. The psychological mirror, letting fear reflect. Let's talk about the kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't strike, and yet leaves the deepest impact. The kind of power that comes from reflection, not retaliation. The Stoics taught us that control over others begins with control over ourselves. And Machiavelli understood that the most lasting fear is not imposed from the outside, but awakened from within. True fear doesn't come from threats. It comes from the silence that forces a man to face himself. When you raise your voice, people defend themselves. But when you say nothing, they start asking questions. About you, about themselves, about what might happen next. And it is in that ambiguity that your influence takes root. To hold up a psychological mirror is to master misdirection. You let them see only what they project. You give no confirmation, no denial, no reaction. And in that void, they fill in the blanks, often with their own worst fears. You don't spread rumors. You just don't address them. You don't threaten. You just remain present, unshaken, unreadable. And suddenly, every glance, every pause, every absence becomes a riddle they can't solve. The human mind is not built to sit comfortably in uncertainty. It needs resolution. And when it doesn't get one, it begins to unravel, slowly, internally. This is not cruelty, it's discipline. It's the art of psychological clarity, knowing that the person who panics is not always reacting to you, but to the story they've told themselves in your silence. That's what Machiavelli meant when he advised rulers to appear capable of great consequences, even if those consequences never come. The mere possibility is often more effective than the act itself. Because when fear is rooted in imagination, it has no boundary, no ceiling. It becomes infinite. In a reactive world, stillness is disturbing. When you don't respond, you don't validate. When you don't retaliate, you don't give direction. And without direction, their fear spirals inward. They begin to see ghosts where there are none. Every quiet second becomes a sentence. Every unspoken word becomes a threat. You become powerful not by what you do, but by what you allow them to do to themselves. So hold the mirror. Let them see their own reflection. Let their guilt, their insecurity, their unresolved motives bubble to the surface. That is the essence of the psychological mirror. You don't control them through fear. You allow them to fear what's already inside them, because the fear that comes from within is the hardest to escape. It follows them into silence, into sleep, into every room where your name isn't even spoken. That's the power of restraint. At the end of the day, it's not your force that makes you untouchable. It's your silence, your ambiguity, and the fear they create all on their own. Patience as a superpower. Let's talk about the kind of strength that rarely gets praised, yet wins wars most never see. Patience. In a world drunk on speed, addicted to instant results, and obsessed with reaction, patience isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. Machiavelli understood what the Stoics had practiced for centuries. That time, when wielded wisely, is more devastating than any weapon. The wise don't rush into battle. They don't chase validation or strike because they're provoked. They wait, they observe, they calculate, because the one who controls time controls the outcome. Most people confuse urgency with effectiveness. They want revenge now, answers now, results now. But urgency is the enemy of clarity. It blinds judgment, burns energy, and often plays straight into the hands of your adversary. True strategy demands restraint. When they scream, you stay silent. When they lunge, you step back. And when they think they've pushed you into a corner, you let them overreach until they expose more than you ever needed to uncover yourself. That's where time becomes your ally. It isolates. It exposes weakness. It magnifies mistakes. The enemy who believes you're retreating because you're weak will inevitably grow arrogant. And arrogance, like rust, corrodes their defense from within. Patience isn't passivity, it's poise. It's the clearest signal that you've mastered yourself, because the one who doesn't flinch under pressure holds the real power in any confrontation. The Stoics called this self-command. Machiavelli turned it into method. He didn't strike first. He let time destabilize his enemies. Let paranoia divide them. Let missteps stack until his intervention was merely a final formality. No rage, no spectacle, just precision, delivered in silence. That's what time can do when you don't squander it chasing emotional victories. To delay is not to lose, it's to see more. To wait is not to retreat, it's to choose your moment. The modern world teaches us to react instantly, to answer immediately, to solve now. But in the space between reaction and response lies the sharpest blade. When you slow your pace beneath the noise of others, you begin to notice what they miss. While they exhaust themselves chasing the surface, you see the fracture lines beneath. And when the time comes, when your patience has drawn out their weakness, isolated their support, and blinded their clarity, then you act, not out of anger, but out of certainty. Not to punish, but to end. That's how patience wins wars the world never watches. At the end of the day, the one who can wait is the one who controls the clock, and the one who controls the clock decides when the game is over. The power of strategic distance. Let's talk about the quietest move that carries the sharpest edge: isolation. Machiavelli understood what the Stoics practiced. Power is not always taken through force, but often through subtraction. A strong enemy is not dangerous because of who they are, but because of who stands with them, their network, their alliances, their momentum. These are the true weapons you must disarm. As long as they are supported, they are bold. But when the room empties, when the echoes of agreement vanish, even the strongest begin to unravel. Isolation isn't about public humiliation or dramatic takedowns. It's about erosion. You pull threads, not swords. You let tension creep into their friendships. Let whispers grow in their circle. Let trust slowly corrode in the background. You plant questions, not accusations. And then you wait. One by one, their pillars fall. Not with noise, but with quiet, subtle disappearance. They start to feel it. The pause in response, the shift in tone, the absence of backup. That's when paranoia sets in. That's when even the confident start second-guessing. And when they look around and ask, "Why is no one standing with me?" You've already won the first half of the war. Because you haven't broken them. You've let doubt do it for you. The final move isn't loud. It's clean, precise. You don't confront in front of a crowd. You strike when they're alone. Mentally, emotionally, strategically. No need to destroy their name. Just dissolve their influence. Let them fade from relevance, not fall in flame. That's the difference between noise and power. One is temporary, the other is permanent. At the end of the day, real dominance doesn't come from overpowering someone. It comes from ensuring no one is left to protect them when you do. In this life, you don't need to be the loudest voice to be heard. You only need to be the one who moves with clarity, restraint, and purpose. Power isn't about overpowering others. It's about mastering yourself. When you stop reacting and start observing, the game shifts. Let patience protect you. Let silence sharpen you. And above all, guard your peace like it's sacred, because it is. If this message resonated, comment "Move in silence" below. And if you're ready to keep learning how to lead with calm and strategy, subscribe and stay close. The next lesson might be the one that changes everything.